Hey guys, my name is Taylor Curran and I'm a sales engineer at Prefect. It's my job to technically support some of the largest companies that use Prefect, and I have seen a lot of different data stacks. Some of the most successful companies that I work with use Prefect to orchestrate DBT Cloud and DBT, their DBT systems. So today, Sean and I want to go over some of the approaches that we have seen work for a variety of different teams, as well as for the Prefect team internally. Before we get into what a Python-based orchestration tool has to do with an SQL-based transformation tool, I want to give a quick overview of what Prefect is for those of you that are unfamiliar, right? So Prefect is a modern orchestration platform. We centralize on a Python SDK. This essentially means is it's really easy for you to define large-scale data pipelines that are touching a variety of different tools across your stack. You can define these pipelines in Python, and Prefect will productionize these pipelines for you, schedule them, have them run in an event-based manner, and we will also handle the monitoring of the health of all of these pipelines that will be running in your system. If you know basic Python, you already know enough to use Prefect. Essentially, it's just Python functions with decorators on the top. You can just add a flow or a task decorator, and from there, Prefect has your back. We will orchestrate any valid Python. We also can run in any environment, so Prefect workflows can run very easily on your local dev machine for the purposes of development and testing. But then from there, it's very easy to point to a variety of different cloud services for execution in a more productionized environment. So that's a quick overview of Prefect. Next, we'll pass to Sean to discuss how Prefect can help optimize what is running in DBT.
There are a couple of ways that Prefect can improve the throughput of your DBT jobs. So one example might be moving past cron-based scheduling. If you're loading your data at 8 and you want to run your DBT job at 9, that's great until the data starts to grow a little bit and you have to push it back by 15 minutes every week or two, or you have a really irregularly large day with lots of data. So one way Prefect can do that is by triggering things based on, say, when a file lands in S3, that can start the DBT job. Another way to do it is by moving the ingestion jobs into Prefect. The DBT job can start immediately after. And this can also work really well for teams where there are heterogeneous amounts of data. So if, for example, it takes 8.5 hours to load your finance data, your engineering team doesn't need to wait to get their kind of downstream processes done or reporting. Another thing that's really interesting is by having that upstream context, if a DBT freshness check fails, it can, say, kick off the ingestion job again and retry it. So adding a little bit of resilience into the process. So Taylor and I have put together an example workflow to illustrate some of these points. So this image is from Prefect of what this would look like with the DBT cloud job in the context of both upstream and downstream processes. So if step one is to have a task process the S3 file that landed and kind of extract, say, structured data out of unstructured data, and then be able to aggregate and use that in DBT. And then downstream from that, there can be, say, generalizing personalized text messages or content for users that will have kind of hopefully more useful tips. And then in this, you can also see a data freshness check that if it failed, it would go back and try to get the new data into S3. And then here's an example of what that would look like in code form on the next slide, where you can see that it processes the S3 file, extracts pain points, checks for data freshness, and runs the cloud job. And it's really just as simple as Python with a decorator. And then I'll turn it over to Taylor to talk a little bit more about how nicely Prefect plays with kind of the rest of the Python-based AI tooling ecosystem.
The second thing that we want to discuss today is how using an orchestration tool like Prefect can help you leverage Python-based AI tooling. Your unstructured data has never been as valuable as it is today. And extracting information from unstructured data like emails or Slack messages is something that you can easily do in Python. Most of the generative AI tooling that is out there is going to have beautiful, wonderful Python-based SDKs. And it's very, very easy to build prefect flows that leverage these tools and have them work in tandem with your DBT transformations that are often leveraging this really important information that you are extracting from the unstructured data in more upstream pipelines. So I'm going to show you guys an example of that. At Prefect, we have a Slack community with around 30,000 data engineers. In this community, these data engineers are asking technical questions about Prefect and also relaying product feedback. We want to ensure that we are getting data from these messages so that our product team can answer important questions, like if we've recently published documentation or a certain guide, do we see a reduction in questions regarding this feature, right? So these are all questions that we can answer in dashboards, provided we're able to extract the information from the unstructured data and also supply it into our data warehouse so that DBT can then transform and aggregate this data. So again, we're going to show the same workflow that Sean pulled up earlier, but we're going to fill it out a bit more. So here you can see that there is a section where we are extracting pain points from unstructured data. So we're getting the message files in S3, and then we are extracting information from that unstructured data and then saving that to our Snowflake warehouse. So then we can run our DBT job that is transforming and aggregating a lot of that data. It's in this example script here, you can see there's nothing very special going on. We are simply using the OpenAI Python-based SDK to extract that information and ensure that we have structured outputs, which the OpenAI SDK makes really nice and easy these days. And the only really piece of prefect syntax that you're seeing in the script is the @task decorator, right? So because prefect is so close to bare metal Python, it's going to make it very, very easy for you to string up these systems. For our third point, we want to talk about what is happening post DBT job. So we all know that our warehouse is one of the best places to take advantage of our data and to transform it, and analyze it, and answer business questions. And this is why DBT is one of the most high impact tools that a business can have. We also all know that data doesn't get into the warehouse by itself, and that we are transforming this data typically so that other parts of our business can run downstream. So an orchestration tool is going to allow you to think and reason about all of those up and downstream components in one place, right? So this brings us back to discussing event-driven execution. Not only is event-driven execution good for kicking off DBT jobs, it's also great for kicking off processes that happen once we see a completion event from DBT Cloud. The ability to see all of these different components in one place is also a major source of resilience across your systems. And increasingly, we are seeing that this data is going beyond populating dashboards, right? This data is powering advanced data products, right? Things that are using this data to automate a wide variety of systems, things like dynamically generating quotes based off of data, things like dynamically generating personalized experiences
etc. And so that's one of the things that we're going to talk about today. So all of these things that are happening downstream of your DBT job, this is really that third time where Prefect is going to enhance and help you get more out of your DBT practice. I'm going to pass to Sean to talk about DBT Cloud webhooks.
DBT Cloud allows you to configure and emit webhooks for different states that a job might be in. And this is really neat because it allows Prefect to react to any of that information in the payload from these webhooks. So in this example, you can configure any of the fields in the payload to be a parameter in a Prefect flow. So if you take, for example, the run reason was kicked off from the UI, you can pass that into a downstream Python flow in Prefect and react to it one way as compared to if it was kicked off on a schedule or via the API, you might want to process it differently. So this can allow you to keep downstream processes even more up to date, even if a user's in DBT Cloud and running things manually. So I'll pass it over to Taylor to show an agentic workflow that we can make run after a DBT job finishes, whether it's run manually or triggered by Prefect.
Now that we know that we can trigger workflows whenever a DBT job completes, I want to give you an example of one type of data product that might get kicked off as a result of a successful DBT job run. So we are, of course, not immune to the hype here. I'm going to continue to bring up OpenAI and agentic workflows because they are so easy to build in a Python script. Here is an example of a function where I am taking data from my warehouse about a user, such as what type of prefect worker are they using? Are they using an Azure Container Instance worker? Are they using an ECS Fargate worker because they're in AWS? Or are they maybe using GCP Vertex AI workers, right? All of these different workers are giving me some information, and I want my agent to have access to that information so that when it generates text, in this case, it will be generating messages regarding which new features a user might find interesting. I want to make sure that that message is personalized. So we're going to use the user data that we've transformed in DBT as a part of this Python-based workflow. And if we look at the script, you can see there's nothing crazy going on. We're simply pulling in our data as part of a Snowflake related task. And then we are also interacting with the OpenAI Python SDK. The only prefect syntax that you're seeing here is that little flow decorator at the top. That's all I really need to do to set this up so that I can then have it trigger off of the completion event of a DBT job so that we can ensure that it has up-to-date data. So that brings us back to one more time showing you this same diagram here. Hopefully we've kind of given you a walkthrough of all of the different components at play here. What we're able to see in this simple diagram are all of the steps ranging from us getting the file down from the raw data down from our file storage. Then we are using our Python script and OpenAI's Python SDK to extract key information from the unstructured data so that it can be placed into our data warehouse so that DBT can transform and aggregate that data so that it's available to our business users and our product team and our downstream products alike. And we're also, as a part of that process, able to dynamically respond to changing conditions that might arise anywhere from across the stack. So things like data freshness, things like one of these tasks that might be executing for way longer than its average duration. All of those things are things that we can be notified about and respond to in an automated way so that our data products that are running downstream, they are more likely to run successful every day that we have them running. So thank you guys so much for hanging out. We appreciate that we got some time today to discuss how Prefect Python-based workflows can really help you make the most out of what you have in your DBT-based transformations in your warehouse so that all of the different components, both in and out of the warehouse, can be visualized in one place.